Hello class, welcome to public administration class. In previous class, when we were, I think we covered some basic aspects related to Mary Parker Follett, right? In previous class, when we studied Mary Parker Follett, I already told you the ideas of Mary Parker Follett are very much revolutionary type, because first, if we'll describe the idea of Mary Parker Follett, if you'll go into depth, you will confuse like everyone. Either her ideas are from classical theory, human relation period, or behavioral period, or modern. So that's why Mary Parker Follett has been termed as prophet of, or guru of management, or prophet of management by none other than Peter Drucker. Okay. So, in previous lecture, I told you about Mary Parker Follett, that she is the only female in male thinkers in public administration, especially up to 1950. Right? After 1950, some female thinkers started to come in public administration, but up to 1950, only Mary Parker Follett was alone. That's why she became very important, or she becomes very important for us to study. Okay. Second thing what you need to remember is that Mary Parker Follett has huge experience in two fields especially. First one is she was having huge experience in municipality, and the second one is that she was having huge experience in social service. Okay. And when she was doing social service as well as when she was working in municipality, she came into contact with industrial people or industrial groups, and from there she started studying industry. Right? So, Mary Parker Follett is considered as the only thinker, or you can argue the first thinker, who really started studying industrial groups. Right? Who started studying what? The social and human relation in factory. Because that was the era of industrial revolution. Don't forget that. Okay? Because that was era of what? Industrial revolution. 1900 to 1930. Right? So, obviously, Mary Parker Follett holds very important place in public administration or in this field. So, you should have good command on this thinker. Second thing is that when we talk about interlinking between paper 1 and paper 2, Mary Parker Follett is very, very much important for paper 2. Okay, when we will see idea, then you will get an idea how this is going to happen, how we can integrate the ideas of Mary Parker Follett in paper 2, especially in governance. Right? Whereas in paper 1, you can interrelate Mary Parker Follett, but in theory part you can interrelate Mary Parker Follett. So, Mary Parker Follett relevant is increasing day by day, and that is very obvious because the ideas are so much revolutionary that they are always applicable. Right? See, first question, when I am saying this, that her ideas are like modern or whatever, first question which should come in your mind is that if her ideas are so much modern, so much relevant, so much revolutionary, then why she is considered as a classical thinker? Right? This question should come into your mind. Okay? After all, we are studying Mary Parker Follett in a classical perspective. Right? Okay, so let's start studying the Mary Parker Follett. After after understanding the concept, you will get a better idea and you will get this answer. Why Mary Parker Follett is considered as a classical thinker, right? So first we need to know the basic views of Mary Parker Follett, basic views of Follett, right? So see, not only Follett, any thinker, any classical thinker in public administration, or let's say any thinker related to any school. Whenever you are studying that thinker, please ensure that you have good command on the basic aspect on which his theory holds. Okay, because the basic aspects are like foundation. Okay, the moment you understand the basic aspect, you will get a good clarity on all the concepts promoted by them, right? So just like others, we are also going to see the basic concepts of Mary Parker Follett. So when we talk about Mary Parker Follett, generally 4 ideas are there which can be considered as the basic concept or the basic view on which concepts of Mary Parker Follett sits. So first one is called doctrine of interpenetration. Right? The first one is called doctrine of interpenetration. Second basic view is called doctrine of whole. Right? Third idea and very interesting idea of Mary Parker Follett is that she believes in participative democracy rather than representative democracy. Okay? And the fourth aspect is Mary Parker Follett herself criticizes the classical thinker. So criticism of classical thinkers. Right? She has many times in her book, she herself criticized the classical thinkers. Right? So let us see again what are the basic ideas of Mary Parker Follett. First one is doctrine of what? Doctrine of interpenetration. Second one is doctrine of whole. Third one is what? Participative democracy. And fourth one is what? Fourth one is criticism to classical thinkers. Right? Now let's move to the first aspect, that is doctrine of interpenetration. Okay? See, Mary Parker Follett assumes that every human wants to work. Always remember this. Okay? Whereas classical thinkers like Max Weber, Taylor, Fayol or any classical thinker, their assumption on human being is negative. But same thing is not negative in case of Mary Parker Follett. She assumes everything in a positive way. So according to Mary Parker Follett, every human being wants to work. He wants to contribute. Okay? Where? In a group, in a group where he or she is working. Okay? So Mary Parker Follett assumes that everyone wants recognition. everyone wants recognition in his or her life. Okay, so due to this, and she assumes these things. Okay, due to this, she or he or the individual in group interacts with other people. Okay, and due to interaction, what happens? Social influence, or let's say simply influence. Right? This phenomena or assumption, Mary Parker Follett argues in the form of doctrine, that is the doctrine of interpenetration. Right? This is first doctrine. Okay? Second aspect, that is doctrine of whole. Okay? Now let's assume a person, the name of person is what? Ramesh. And he is working in, let's say, in one MNC, TCS, Tata Consultancy Service, big IT firm of India. Right? Now, what Mary Parker Follett is saying, after some time, what will happen? The ideas of Ramesh and the ideas of the organization in which Ramesh is working, due to doctrine of interpenetration, Ramesh will try to interact with what? Ramesh will try to interact with the organization. And Mary Parker Follett argues that this interaction will lead to creative synthesis of ideas. Okay? This leads to creative synthesis of ideas. This same thing she is referring as a doctrine of whole. Right? See, one thing you should remember. After understanding the concepts, many times you may think that these are they are like common sense. But why so much, this English doctrine of whole, doctrine of interpenetration? Why is like that? Because this discipline is American. 96% of the academic content will study in public administration is developed as a American discipline by the perspective of Americans. That's why you will find the English wordings so much difficult. But don't worry, after seeing those English, you should be aware of the keywords because they are very important to understand the question. That is why in public administration there may be problem of translation when state PCS or UPSC is giving you question in your optional subject in mains, right? Because the discipline itself is completely American based. So don't worry much, just focus on understanding the basic concept. Okay? See, if you are reading doctrine of whole, doctrine of interpenetration, you may feel it, what is this? This is so looking very difficult. Nothing is there. Understand the concept properly, everything will be sorted out very easily. Right? So, the creative synthesis of ideas is called doctrine of what? Whole. This is second basic concept of Mary Parker Follett. Now, come to the third aspect, participative democracy. This is very interesting. Mary Parker Follett argues against representative democracy, which was there in USA at that time. Still USA is following this aspect, that is representative democracy. Even we also follow representative democracy. Indian system follows representative democracy. Mary Parker Follett argues against this concept. Remember, this is very, very important in paper 2. Okay? And what she argues? That representative democracy promotes individual interest rather than people's interest. Or she argues that representative democracy promotes group interest rather than promoting the interest of what? People. Right? How? Let's understand one example. You will also argue that you will also agree that what he is saying is very right. Let's say in our USA or let's say India, okay, any politician is standing for, let's say, MP, in MP election. So some people are there who funds their election, right? Because in election, you have seen lots of money is required for winning election, or let's say even fighting the election. So what happens? Due to this funding aspect, let's say 4 to 5 people funded this MP. Right? 4 to 5 people funded this election of MP. So what happens now when he gets elected and he goes to parliament? So it is very obvious when policy making issues will come, he will keep mind the interest of these 4 to 5 people, right? This is what Mary Parker Follett is arguing, that the representative democracy is against the people's interest, rather it's promote what? Individual interest. Okay? So, she argues for participative democracy. Participative democracy means where real democracy is there. In every decision, people's views are taken. For example, there is one country which follows this model, that is participative democracy, Switzerland. Right? This is the third very important concept as well as basic concept of Mary Parker Follett. And the last concept is, although later we will see how we can keep Mary Parker Follett in a classical school of thought, but she herself is criticizing the classical thinkers. First thing. Second, what she says? She argues that in classical thinker or in classical theory, humans are treated like cog in a wheel. Now what is this cog? Wheel, everyone knows. What is this cog? Let's say one wheel is there. You may have bike, you may have car. Let's say this wheel is there. So you may have seen like this. You have seen in wheel. This is called cog. So this is cog, cog, right? So when vehicle will start moving, main function is performed by this wheel. Cog is there to simply support it. Right? No one give much attention to cog. Rather, main focus is of wheel. Okay? So, C says like this, like the cog, classical thinkers argues that, or they think that a person is a cog in a wheel. So, they take mechanistic view or machine view. They take machine view. Or in standard terms of public administration, you can argue they take mechanistic view. Okay? Right? This is what she is arguing. Next aspect which she argues is that classical thinkers' approach is static. The approach followed by classical thinkers is static. What is static? Static means permanent. Okay? So obviously she argues that, and that is true also, up to an extent that is true. The concepts of classical thinkers are permanent, they don't change with time. Okay? The ideas or the concepts of classical thinkers don't change with time. So obviously, any principle which was very relevant in 1910 when there was the era of Industrial Revolution may not be relevant today, because the times have changed, the need have changed, the environment have changed, people have changed, attitude have changed. Right? Technology has changed. And this can come in the form of complete question also. Right? So, these are the basic criticisms of Mary Parker Follett on classical thinkers. Okay? One more view she gives, that is, classical thinkers believe in numbers, mathematical numbers. It means she is criticizing the goal of classical thinkers. The goal of classical thinkers was what? Increasing efficiency. Let's say our industry is working in 50% efficiency. Now the goal of classical thinkers is simply only one. Let's increase this 50% output efficiency to, let's say, 90 to 100%. And how to do that? They used to do that by the concepts which were against or which are against the human aspect, which are machine-like concepts. They didn't give much focus on human aspect, they give focus on machine aspect as well as economic aspect. So, very important point, that classical thinkers basically they are concerned with only two things, right? The first one is economics. Second one is technology. Mary Parker Follett argues that the focus of classical thinkers were basically two things. First is economics, second one is technology, right? Now let's move and see the basic concepts of Mary Parker Follett. Sorry, not the basic concept, those concepts which are very important in the context of public administration, because the basic concept we just saw. And what are the four basic concepts? First one is doctrine of interpenetration, second is doctrine of whole, third is her views on participative democracy, and fourth is criticism of classical thinkers, right? Now let's move to the concepts of Follett which are relevant in public administration. Okay, so before starting, what we are going to do, I will give you a brief overview of the ideas which are important for public administration. Okay, so the first concept which is very important for public administration is her ideas on conflict. Most important aspect you need to understand is her ideas on this concept, conflict. And this idea is a very, very revolutionary idea. Okay? Second, we need to study her concepts on order. Right? How order is given in a hierarchy, how order is given in an organization. Third aspect which is very important in terms of public administration is her ideas on leadership. Right? Fourth idea which is very important is planning and coordination. See here you can see two concepts, both are together, because Mary Parker Follett in her book writes these two things. Okay, these two things. see when she writes planning and coordination, I think she doesn't differentiate much between them. They go, side by side. So we also will study planning and coordination side by side. Rather than differentiating them, we will discuss them as a one concept, but both are not same. Remember this. How planning is interlinked with coordination or vice versa, we will see. Okay, now let's move to next concept. Next concept is authority and responsibility. Okay, next concept is what? Authority and responsibility, as the last concept is control. Okay, there are lots of concepts given by Mary Parker Follett, but in terms of public administration, these 6 concepts, that is conflict, order, leadership, planning and coordination, authority and responsibility, and control is very important, right? So let's move and let's discuss the first concept, that is conflict. So traditionally, what is conflict traditionally? Traditionally, conflict is or viewed, traditionally it was thought that conflict is not good for organization. There should be no conflict in organization. Okay, so the concept of conflict itself, it was viewed in a negative aspect. Okay, remember this. The concept of conflict, that there is a conflict in an organization, was viewed in a very negative way. In traditional form, in classical form, मतलब classical thinkers say that कि यार किसी भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होना ही नहीं चाहिए. right? First thing. Second, she says that traditionally conflicts were solved by domination. Although one more method is there for solving this conflict, but let's say see, when she says domination, it means, let's say one organization is there, okay? Let's say labor is there, junior manager is there, senior manager is there. So let's say some conflict is there in labors, between labors. So what she is saying, the top level, let's say senior manager, without asking anything from junior manager or labor, he used to solve this problem because he thinks that as per classical thinkers, this is not good for organization. There should be no conflict. Okay? But Mary Parker Follett, in a very unique way, takes the positive aspect of this concept. That is, she argues that if there are two individuals in any organization, then what will happen? They will have two different views. So it is very natural, or it is very obvious that there will be conflict in an organization. We should not take conflict in a negative sense. We should take conflict in a positive sense. Okay? This is first very important thing you need to remember. Now she argues that how conflicts were solved traditionally. How conflicts were solved traditionally, right? Okay, so first she argues that how conflicts were solved. Then she gives one new concept or idea for solving conflict. So she argues that basically two principles or two methods were followed. First one is called domination, and second one is called compromise. First one is called what? Domination, and second one is called compromise. Now what is domination? When one side dominates, simply. Let's argue, best example is World War I. So after the end of World War I, the winners led by USA were they were dominating on Germany. Okay, so since one side dominated, so there may be temporary solution, but there is not permanent solution of this conflict. Mary Parker Follett writes this in her book. There is not a permanent solution by using domination as a method of solving conflict. Similarly, by second method, that is compromise, what happens? Both sides sacrifice their, let's say, idea, or let's say, ego. But since both sides sacrifice